Good evening. I talked a little earlier today. I'm not sure you haven't seen it yet, but I talked a little earlier today about my new reloaders setup. Um, I know I keep mentioning this, but back in July of 2020, I was diagnosed with visual impairment due to a stroke, and I gave up the idea of hand loading. And the advent of some new tools and a desire has brought me back into it, and I've set myself up with what I consider potentially a really great system. I started off by spotting this stand as a reloader, and it showed it holding a brick down below here, but I looked at it and thought I saw potential for a good mobile system, because let's face it, I ain't got room anymore for 4 foot by 8 foot rough sun heavy duty workbench anymore. And so far I put this together and I've loaded 44 different 30-30 Ackley loads, and today I did get to the range and shoot some of it. Unfortunately, my brand new chronograph, by the time I got out there, I had invested in apparently somewhere along the line into some Dollar General 9-volt batteries. So I got exactly one reading off of it beforehand. But at this point, I'll show you here something that I didn't never have when I was young. Was I believe this is a Frankfurt Arsenal, if I remember right, automatic scale. And by God, I've tested it with my balance scale and another Frankfurt Arsenal scale, pocket scale, and I've never had it more than a tenth off from an automatic feeding. So it gives me the ability to set a charge, and it does the trickling for me. I might have been a little bit more precise when I could do it by hand, but at this point in my life, by God, this is kind of a godsend. And it doesn't take that much to reprogram it for different ideals. And I've set myself up with a little drawer here where I got my primer pocket prep stuff, tube of lube, which I probably will never use, but I got it because I always put just a little dab of sewing machine oil on my fingers, and I'll rub just above or should I say just below the shoulder of my case when I'm sizing, and that little 3-in-1 oil on the tip of my finger seems to be enough to get me by. I've never had a problem with that. In this drawer, I got myself set up with a trickle charger and even more primer, our case prep stuff with my chamfer and my reamer. Up here right now, so far, as I got my primer, I guess for lack of a better word, I can't think of the right word right now, but it diverts the fired primers into this bucket, and then you can feed new primers into it. And then this one down here, my scales and calipers, my hand priming tool, which is the way I prefer to do it. And of course, up in here, I haven't put anything yet, but what dies I do have are here. The only one that's missing right now is I don't think I put my new 460 dies on here for 32, 38. Right now I can't see it. I did get my new 12 gauge cowboy shot shell dies. I don't know how far I can get into this on YouTube, because so far my understanding is you're not allowed to show on film your actual process. But the system I'm setting up with these cartridges to do that 72-150, what I'm calling now my Muckwa Express, I'm actually only going to be using the sizing die part of it as a way to open up my case mouth, kind of like you would a pistol cartridge, and then I'll hand deprime the same way I would if I was using like a lead load all. And so therefore I'm basically just going to be using the sizer die as a mouth flare and the crimp, because I will put a slight crimp on these lead bullets when I'm all said and done. Now, as I said, I did go to the range today, and as proof of that, over here, and forgive me in my impromptu, genuine Jim Shockey tripod, and this shot right here was my first initial shot with my old loads, just to confirm point of aim, which I'm pretty happy with, because that old scope and scope mount was taken off that particular barrel to be shipped off to become Ackley improved, and then I remounted it, and my first legitimate on the bench shot gave me that. I was pretty happy. I'm at 37 grain load of Beatavori N540, which is a Swedish powder. I love that powder. It's my /6 load powder, and with that particular load, I'm not sure I can give you specifics, but I'm getting 3,211 feet per second out of that load out of a 150 grain Barnes X bullet. In this case, when I was using this load here, I was using same Beatavori N540, and I was hitting an average of 2453 with a 150 grain Nosler partition. Unfortunately today, my brand new chronograph apparently does not like Dollar General 9-volt batteries, because by the time I got to the range, I could not get it to read anything. Come home, put a new Duracell on it, and it went right back to life. Now my second shot was 38 grains of Beatavori N540, and for me and my bad eyes, I'm not unhappy with that. Now, however, when I jumped to 38.5, I don't know if this is me or the gun at this point, but it jumped up, and if you notice, every step I've gained a little bit in height, because when I went to 39 grains, I couldn't figure out where I was hitting, so I finally went back to aiming at this particular spot, and it was sitting here almost 10 inches high. The other 3 shots I took here and obviously went up and over. But a little summation of what happened today. I do have some footage, but I think it's kind of useless footage without having the chronograph and numbers to go with it. Anyway, for today, that's what I got.